I think the most important thing that you can get out of this is to understand that you are a choice-making individual, and that all of the conditions that you find yourself in your life, all of the circumstances of your life, all of the emotional reactions that you have to all of the people and all of the things and events and so on that take place in your life are really choices. And that's a very difficult thing for a lot of people to get, because they're raised to believe that I can't help the way I feel. I have a right to be miserable when somebody treats me in a certain way. I can't help it. I've always been that way. It's just my nature. It's just the kind of person that I am.
This waiter was directly from Italy and was serving this wonderful pasta and all of these things. And he was a madman. He was a maniac. Every customer was getting him all upset. He would talk to the other head waiters and running back and forth and getting himself all worked up. Finally, I said, come on over here. He said, what are you doing this for? I do this all the time. You do therapy wherever you go, right? I said, what are you taking this so serious? All you're doing is serving spaghetti. It's no big deal. I said to him, you know, before you're 50 years old, you're going to have a heart attack. Guarantee it, if you continue to behave that way every day. He said, look, what do you expect from me? I'm Italian. So, well, that explains it. I mean, his rationale for his behavior was, I can't do anything about it, I inherited it. You know, I just got deficient anger genes. I mean, I've heard kids say that, you know, when they're failing math. I can't help it. My father was lousy at math, my grandfather was, I inherited, you know, deficient math genes. It's just not my fault. I can't do anything about it. The fact is that anything that goes on inside of you that is immobilizing, that gets in your way, that keeps you from functioning in the ways that you would like to function, that stops you from reaching your goals, whatever they may be in your life, anything inside, you choose. It's yours. You own it all. And if you don't like anything about yourself, anything, are you shy? Are you nervous? Are you afraid? Are you somebody who can't handle getting up in front of groups because it scares you? Are you someone who gets angry too much? Do you find yourself being manipulated and controlled by other people too often? Are you afraid to stand up for what you believe? Are you a terrible cook? Are you lousy at tennis? You haven't got a backhand? Whatever it may be, it doesn't make any difference. You are the sum total of the choices that you make in your life. If you don't buy that, if you buy into another system, which a lot of psychologists will teach you, which is, it's in your unconscious. You can't help it. After all, you're a middle child. What do you expect from a middle child? You know, certainly can't have any identity of your own. Or maybe you're an only child. Oh, God. Maybe you're the youngest of 12. You had 11 parents, you know, all your life. Somebody telling you what to do from the time or maybe you were the oldest and you had to be a parent for 9 others or whatever. You can use any excuse that you want, or you can just say, the devil made me do it, or it's God's fault. You know, a lot of people blame God. God and Mother are most responsible for all of the things that are wrong with us, you know. The classic, the one I heard over and over and over again in all the years, and I announced it on network television one night, you know. I said, I came here tonight for one reason. I want to tell everybody in America that your mother liked your sister better. I heard it every day for 20 years, you know, it must be true. I can't do it. My mother liked my sister better. No wonder I can't. She was the one that got all the attention. I didn't get anything. Her pictures and all the photographs. Nothing for me. I know some of you don't have a sister and you think, well, then that's not the reason. She wanted one. Really. And she would have liked her better. I guarantee it. You know. It's taking responsibility for everything that goes on in your life, which is what Wayne Dyer is about. If you really want to take it home to anybody else. No blame is allowed for anything that goes on in your life. Virtually everything in your life boils down to what kinds of attitudes, what kinds of beliefs do you have about any given situation. You try to set your expectations in such a way so that you understand that your life is nothing more than a series of choices.
So many people ask the question when they want to live on a life of meaning, how can I do it when I'm around so many people who are operating at lower levels? You've missed the point if you're asking yourself that question. If you're living with somebody, a spouse, for example, family members, people that you work with, neighbors and so on, who are living at lower levels of energy than you cannot be dragged down by their low energy. That's not possible. That's not how the universe works. The reason that you feel dragged down is because you join them in their energy. You become within yourself what they are. In other words, the sentence, "You make me angry, you make me depressed by your behavior," really says that I see your depression, I see your anger, I see your hatred, I see your prejudice, and I'll have some of that too, and I'll hate you for hating me. And I'll be angry at you for being angry at me. Or being around you so depresses me because you're so depressing that you cause me to be depressed. That isn't the case at all. It's because that person's depression is something you decide you'll align with. Now, if you take the reverse, if you take Jesus, who would walk amongst the prostitutes and would walk amongst the thieves, he didn't say, I'm not going to go over there and talk to those thieves. They took my sandals the last time. I'm not having that happen to me again. It's not, and I don't want to be around those hookers because, they're going to be tempting and so on. He didn't do that. When he would walk among the thieves would no longer want to steal. Don't you remember on Golgotha? At the crucifixion? He was between two thieves. Both of them were redeemed by being in his presence. Even the least among you can do all that I have done, and even greater. That's where you have to be. You have to be in a place, and remember that no amount of your depression is going to undepress somebody else. See, mothers know this. I watch this with the mother of my children, Marcy, a woman I love very, very much. And I would watch her in the middle of the night. I would be laying over here and she'd be here and the baby would cry. And instead of her saying, like so many people speak about, that crying really just upsets me and it really upsets me. Why do you keep crying? It's like, you're just doing it. You're upsetting me. You're making me upset. She didn't do any of that. She didn't say that babies crying would make me depressed. What she would say is, I will bring my high energy of love and healing and feeding to you, and this will help you to raise your level of happiness. And it always worked. For me, a surly waiter is a wonderful challenge. My kids will tell you that. If I get somebody in there and you can tell that they're in a hurry, they're not going to be a little bit rude, they've been rushed and all of that, I know I can turn this person around. And I'll even make it a contest. Say, just watch. It's going to happen. I'm going to get this person turned around. And all you have to do is say to them, I know you're having a tough time tonight, and you probably didn't want to have any more, but I said, you are so lucky tonight. You got somebody who came here to make your life as good as I can possibly make it tonight. Is there anything I can do to make this waiting experience happy for you? What's your name? Where'd you come from? You have an accent? What is it like for you live? And within minutes of just elevating my awareness and being happy and letting them know that this is going to be a pleasant experience for them. And I do this, before you know it, they're bringing you free desserts. We don't have to pay for anything. Here's a complimentary pass. Come the next time. By the way, my mother works over at this place. Would you like to get a massage? Those kinds of things happen all the time. When you get your ego out of the way, when you dissolve your connection to this gross worldly world of conflict, and begin to just say, I can turn this around. The lady who cleans the toilets. Now, to me, anybody who in my life cleans toilets for me and changes my bedding and makes my room nice, that's an angel. That's not somebody that I deserve to disrespect. That's an angel who's come in and willing to serve me and work for very little. That's always, for me, that's $100. I seek her out and I just say, I just appreciate you. And I do this before I go to sleep. I do this before I even take the room. And it's just, I mean, $100 bill to me is a piece of paper. For her, and it isn't even what it does for her financially. It's like what you do is you take people that she looked surly, she looked angry, she looked like she didn't want to be in there, she looked like just another, like white howley in here who's I've got to deal with. She was a lady from Mexico, and she just looked like she didn't. And when I just took her over and I put my arm around her, I said, you know what? I am so happy that you are here to help and serve me, and I just want to express my gratitude to you. You can take every incident of people who are operating at levels that you know keep them tied and connected to the gross worldly realm, and you can shift it. You can shift it. Because you practice a life of meaning is one in which you elevate your awareness to such a place that no matter who enters this realm, if they don't come with love, they don't get in. They don't get in. Inside of this shell of a body, this shell, this thing that I live in, inside here is my inner organs. And inside of those organs is an invisible intelligence. And inside there, in this little chamber inside of me, there's a sign that says, do not enter unless you come with love. So you can insult my body. You can be angry. You can even do things to my insides. But in here, where I live, do not attempt to enter unless you come with love. That's all I have in there. And you can do this. He presents this in Power versus Force that seems to bring it all home very clearly. Let's attempt to understand all of this through an example. Imagine a bum on a street corner in a fashionable neighborhood. Can you get a picture of that? Bum, street corner, fashionable neighborhood. In a fashionable neighborhood in a big city stands an old man in tattered clothes, alone, leaning against the corner of an elegant brownstone. Look at him from the perspective of various levels of consciousness and note the differences in how he appears. From the bottom of the scale, at a level of 20, the level of shame, this bum is dirty, disgusting, and disgraceful. And that's how you view him, and you know people who do. And you may know yourself as having done that at one time. From the level of 30, which is guilt, he would be blamed for his condition. He deserves what he gets. He's probably a lazy welfare cheat. At 50, hopelessness, his plight would appear desperate, damning evidence that society can't do anything about homelessness. At 75, grief, the old man looks tragic, friendless, and forlorn. At a consciousness level of 100, fear, we might see him as threatening, a social menace. Perhaps we could call the police before he commits some crime. At 125, desire, he might represent a frustrating problem. Why doesn't somebody do something? At 150, anger, the old man might look like he could be violent. Or on the other hand, you might become furious that such conditions exist in the first place. At 175, we're still at levels that still weaken you. Pride. He could be seen as an embarrassment or as lacking the self-respect to better himself. And at 200, courage. Now we're at the distinction between truth and falsehood and that which empowers rather than weakens. We're at power rather than force. At 200, we might be motivated to wonder if there's a local homeless shelter. All he needs is a job and a place to live. At 250, neutrality, the bum looks okay. Maybe even interesting. Live and let live, we might say. After all, he's not hurting anyone. At 310, willingness, we might decide to go down and see what we can do to cheer this fellow up. Or volunteer some time, perhaps, at a local mission. At 350, acceptance, the man on the corner appears intriguing. He probably has an interesting story to tell. He's where he is for reasons we may never understand. At 400, reason, he's a symptom of the current economic and social malaise, or perhaps a good subject for in-depth psychological study. Now we move to the higher levels. At the higher levels, the old man begins to look not only interesting, but friendly, then lovable. Perhaps we would then be able to see that he was, in fact, one who had transcended social limits and gone free. Maybe a joyful old guy with the wisdom of age in his face and the serenity that comes from indifference to material things. At 600, peace, the highest level any of us will ever attain here, he is revealed as one's own self in a temporary condition. Can you see the difference? Can you see the distinctions between how we look at things, a simple bum standing on a corner, and all of the attendant ways that we have of processing it, some of which will weaken us individually and collectively, and some of which will empower us individually and collectively.
There's nothing natural about living a life filled with stress and anxiety, having feelings of despair and depression, and needing pills to tranquilize yourself. Agitated thoughts that produce high blood pressure, a nervous stomach, persistent feelings of discomfort, an inability to relax or sleep, and frequent displays of displeasure and outrage are violating your natural state. Believe it or not, you have the power to create the naturally stress-free and tranquil life you desire. You can utilize this power to attract frustration or joy, anxiety or peace. When you're in harmony with the 7 faces of intention, you can access and pull from the source of all in order to fulfill your intention of being stress-free and tranquil. So if it's natural to have feelings of well-being, why is it that we seem to experience so much unwellness and tension? The answer to this question provides you with the key that leads to the peaceful life you desire. Stress is a desire of the ego. We speak of stress as if it were present in the world as something that attacks us. We say things like, I'm having an anxiety attack, as if anxiety is a combatant. But the stress in your body is rarely the result of external forces or entities attacking you. It's the result of the weakened connecting link to intention caused by your belief that ego is who you are. You are peace and joy, but you've allowed your ego to dominate your life. The following lighthearted way to stop taking yourself so seriously is from a book by Rosamund and Benjamin Zander. He's the conductor of the Boston Philharmonic Orchestra, titled The Art of Possibility. It illustrates in a delightful way how we allow ego to create many of the problems we encounter that we label stress and anxiety. It's called Rule Number 6. I'll share it with you. 2 prime ministers are sitting in a room discussing affairs of state. Suddenly a man bursts in, apoplectic with fury, shouting and stamping and banging his fist on the desk. The resident prime minister admonishes him. Peter, he says, kindly remember Rule Number 6. Whereupon Peter is instantly restored to complete calm, apologizes and withdraws. The politicians return to their conversation only to be interrupted yet again 20 minutes later by an hysterical woman gesticulating wildly, her hair flying. Again, the intruder is greeted with the words, Marie, please remember Rule Number 6. Complete calm descends once more, and she too withdraws with a bow and an apology. When the scene is repeated for a 3rd time, the visiting prime minister addresses his colleague. My dear friend, he says, I've seen many things in my life, but never anything as remarkable as this. Would you be willing to share with me the secret of Rule Number 6? Very simply, replies the resident prime minister. Rule Number 6 is, don't take yourself so damn seriously. Ah, says his visitor, that's a fine rule. After a moment of pondering, he inquires, and what, may I ask, are the other rules? Oh, there aren't any. As you encounter stress, pressure, or anxiety in your life, remember Rule Number 6. At the moment you realize you're thinking stressful thoughts. By noticing and discontinuing the inner dialogue that causes stress, you may be able to prevent its physical symptoms. What are the inner thoughts that produce stress? I'm more important than those around me. My expectations aren't being met. I shouldn't have to wait. I'm too important. I'm the customer here, and I demand attention. No one else has these pressures. All of these above, along with a potentially endless inventory of Rule Number 6 thoughts, are from the ego's bag of tricks. You aren't your work, your accomplishments, your possessions, your home, your family, your anything.
You are an aspect of the power of intention, dressed in a physical human body, intended to experience and enjoy life on earth. This is the intention that you want to bring to the presence of stress. You must become conscious of the need to activate thought responses that match your intention. These new responses will become habitual and replace your old habit of responding in stress-producing ways. When you examine segments of stress-producing incidents, you always have a choice. Do I stay with thoughts that produce stress within me, or do I work to activate thoughts that make stress impossible? Here's another easy tool that will help you to replace the habit of choosing anxiety and stress. I call them 5 magic words. Here they are. I want to feel good. I want to feel good. Your intention here is to be tranquil and stress-free. When you feel good, you're connected to your intentions, regardless of what goes on around you or what others expect you to feel. Many events will transpire in which your conditioned response is to feel bad. Be aware of these outer incidents and say the 5 magic words. I want to feel good. In that precise moment, ask yourself if feeling bad is going to make the situation any better. You'll discover that the only thing that feeling bad accomplishes in response to outer situations is to plummet you into anxiety, despair, depression, and of course, stress. Instead, ask yourself in that moment what thought you can have that will make you feel good. When you discover that it's responding with kindness and love to the bad feeling, which is quite different from wallowing around in it, you'll begin experiencing a shift in your emotional state. Now you're in vibrational harmony with your source, since the power of intention knows only peace, kindness, and love. I assure you that your decision to feel good is a way of connecting to spirit. It isn't an indifferent response to events. By feeling good, you become an instrument of peace, and it's through this channel that you eradicate problems. By feeling bad, you stay in the energy field that creates resistance to positive change and experience a stressful, anxious state as a byproduct. The things you call problems will perpetually present themselves to you. They'll never go away. Resolve one, and another one will surface. You'll never get it done. I urge you to simply accept the fact that you'll never get it all done and begin to live more fully in the only moment that you have, which is now. The secret to removing the harmful effects of feeling stressed and under pressure is to be in the now. Announce out loud to yourself and all who are willing to listen to you, I'm an incomplete being. I'll always be incomplete because I can never get it done. Therefore, I choose to feel good while I'm in the moment, attracting into my life the manifestations of my desires. I am complete in my incompleteness. All resistance melts away when you can feel complete in your incompleteness.
I wake up every night around 3 o'clock in the morning. And there was a great poet, his name was Rumi, many, many years ago. He said, the morning breeze has secrets to tell you. Do not go back to sleep. Do not go back to sleep. Do not go back to sleep. And many of the books that I've written when I'm been awakened, and there's something, what is it? What is it that awakens me? It's like I can almost tell you the exact time. It's like, because in a film I did years ago called The Shift, they show a clock, it's 3:13 a.m., almost to the second. Every single night, there's something. Is that angels? Is that divine source? Is that someone saying, this is your purpose, this is the time, there's no distractions?
The thing we most want to say is that we're with you saying that all the time. Mm-hmm. So what's interesting to us is that that's the time that you decide to listen.
Right. But there's nobody else around to distract me.
And that's the important conversation to have. So what is it about that time? What is it that's happening there that makes you more resonant, that makes you more receptive? And it is that the momentum of your thought has stopped. So there is no contradictory vibration going on within you. So you're more likely to hear. The way we've been defining that most recently is that when you wake up in the morning, you have the potential of being in that highest frequency, because while you slumber, your point of attraction, the momentum of your point of attraction stops. So when you first wake up, before you begin thinking thoughts of what went wrong yesterday or what you have to do today, you're in your greatest potential of that pure positive energy. So if you can focus there and allow a little momentum to get going, what happens is it isn't something that just happens, it's something that you focus yourself into being. But when you focus yourself into that, you tune in, is the best way of describing it. You tune in to that source energy consciousness who has always been aware of everything you're doing, but there's a big difference when you tune into it and you consciously are aware of it. In other words, source is there for everyone all the time. We don't need to talk you into that. We're always there. But when you know it, when you're not doing that thing you do that is preventing you from knowing that, that's when you have those wonderful moments. And you can do that all the time. So sometimes you have beliefs that do not serve you. But when you first awaken, those beliefs are quiet enough that you can find a fresh one that comes from source, that is about who you really are and what you really know.
Is the reverse of that if you awaken and you have a very positive thought? That is, I'm going to heal myself.
Well, that's a wonderful thing. Once you get that momentum going, if we were standing in your physical shoes, if the thought felt good, we'd think it. We'd think more about it. We'd talk about it. We'd write it down. We would discuss it with others. We would deliberately encourage that momentum. But if it's an uneasy thought, if it feels uncomfortable, then we would do our best to generalize it. The more specific you become in a thought, the more momentum. The more general you become in a thought, the slower the momentum.
Can you have a thought, like I talk a lot about the I am discourses. I am as the name of source, another name for source. If you are feeling weak, but you have a thought saying, I am strong, I mean, that's one of the lines from the book of Joel. Let the weak man say, I am strong. If you continuously say, I am strong, or I am well, or I am healed, or I am wealthy, or I am positive, or I'm
It makes
loving.
sense. It makes sense, but there is a effort factor, a backfiring factor that sometimes every subject is really two subjects, wanted and absence of it. So if you are feeling not strong and you say, I am strong, which end of the stick are you activating? And what we've noticed is the more effort you are applying, usually you're trying to overcome what you've really got going on vibrationally with words. And instead of it working the way you want it to, it works in reverse, because when you're trying really hard, it's an indicator that you're trying to use your words and your actions and your affirmations to compensate for vibration that you didn't get started off on the right foot. We think affirmations are wonderful, but we would make sure that we are feeling really good when we affirm, because the universe doesn't hear what you say. The universe hears what you mean.
I wrote a book years ago called Inspiration, using the two words inspire, inspirado, inspire, in spirit. And there was a great teacher on this planet a couple of thousand years ago named Patanjali, and he said, when you are inspired by some great purpose, some extraordinary project, that all of your thoughts break their bonds, your mind transcends limitations, your consciousness expands in every direction, and you find yourself in a new and a great and a wonderful world.
Perfect.
And then he said, dormant forces, when you're inspired, dormant forces, faculties and talents come alive. And you discover yourself to be a greater person by far than you've ever dreamt yourself to be. It's almost as if you discover yourself to be God or Source or the Tao or Divine Mind or whatever name we place on this source energy that you speak of and speak to us from.
Authentic power comes from your soul, that magical place that is always within you. The examples of people who have large amounts of money but are purposeless in their soul are everywhere. Famous actors and actresses plagued by drug habits, committing suicide at what others thought of as the peak of their careers. Divorce rates among the very wealthy skyrocketing along with painful courtroom squabbles over who gets what. When you're on purpose, doing what you know you are here for, and forgetting about what will come into your life in the way of money and wealth, then ironically, money and wealth arrive in your life in amounts sufficient to provide you with a life of prosperity. And this is real magic in action. I can say this because it has always worked for me. When I chased after money, I never had enough.
when I got my life on purpose and focused on giving of myself and everything that arrived in my life, then I was prosperous. What follows are some guidelines that you can use as you start to befriend your own miracle-making potential. First, of course, is to disdain all disbelief. Send scarcity out of your mind and refuse to have those kinds of thoughts. When an old, habitual scarcity thought begins to enter your consciousness, simply say, "Next." It will remind you that the old thought is now finished, and you are entering a new, prosperous thought process. Using "next" as a magic word will remind you to get on with the magic of believing, rather than the anguish of doubt. Study the world of matter, of all material possessions at the subatomic level. Begin to note that everything material is nothing more than empty space when viewed from a closer perspective. See the folly of making that material world your master. Just like your thoughts, the material world is limitless. It is without beginning and end, totally abundant and totally available to you if you know what your true purpose here is. Develop a trust in your intuitive inner voices. It has been said that those who are classified as lucky are essentially those who go with their hunches rather than what others have prescribed. If you feel a strong inner inclination to change jobs or to try a particular investment, then place more trust in that hunch. This is your divine guidance encouraging you to take a risk, to ignore the ways of the herd, to be the unique individual that you are. Learn to trust your intuition and allow your physical body to travel the path that you are feeling within. Work at replacing thoughts within you that reflect a scarcity consciousness. If you elect to constantly tell the world what is missing in your life and how you can never get ahead, it is because you are in possession of an inner space that believes strongly in lacks. You can replace negative inner slogans with new thoughts that include abundance, plenty, bountifulness, profit, ease, and the like. When you see these thoughts as the way your universe is and process your world in these ways, the words and concepts will be your way of presenting yourself. You will begin to act on the new thoughts, just like you previously acted on the old ones to create your life circumstances. Develop a conviction in your heart that prosperity truly belongs to you. To think about prosperity is a great beginning, but you must make those thoughts that you are entitled to prosperity into actual beliefs. Merely wishing for it is not enough, for nothing will truly be in your life until you reach a conviction within you that it belongs there. Trust in the divineness that you are, and that is the perfection of the universe. Remember, when you trust in yourself, you trust in the wisdom that created you. And obviously, when you doubt yourself, you question that same divine intelligence that brought you here. Surrender and relax about it, and you will know what to do. You no longer have to worry. Prosperity will indeed come to you, and you will be creating it in a magical way. Trust in the miracle that you are, then get on with your life in a purposeful way. Get rid of the polarity that you may have about money. You have perhaps either seen money as God's blessing or as the arch enemy of spirituality. Keep in mind that if your purpose involves providing things that require money for others and for yourself, and if you are uncompromised about your own commitment to your purpose, then money will show up in your life to assist you with your heroic mission. The denouncing of money is a trap. Instead, see it as that which is manifesting in your life to assist you with your purpose. Then stay on purpose and use that money and any other physical abundance that will begin showing up in your life in larger and larger amounts to fulfill your commitment to your purpose. If money is all that you covet and you want it for the purpose of gaining power over others, then you will never get enough, because you never get enough of what you don't want. Your goal is in the invisible realm, that place where you do all of your living. Money and other symbols of prosperity arrive in your life to assist you on that path. If you miss the message, you may see lots of money come into your life, and you will also experience it disappearing. Avoid the trap of expecting your prosperity to arrive in your life through the efforts of others. You create your own life of prosperity. No one has to change in order for you to experience your own prosperity. This is an inner game, and you must leave behind your expectations of others. Take responsibility for your own feelings about prosperity, and you will eliminate any and all suffering that you experience in this context. Prosperity is something that I know can be achieved by anyone. If I can experience it coming from my scarce beginnings, then it is hard for me to imagine that anyone else cannot make it happen. You may never have thought of yourself as a person who has genius residing within you. You may have thought that genius is a word reserved for the Mozarts, Michelangelos, Einsteins, Madame Curies, Virginia Woolf, Stephen Hawking, and others whose lives and accomplishment have been publicized. But keep in mind that they share the same essence of consciousness that you do. They emanated from the same power of intention as you did. They have all shared the same life force animating them as you do. Your genius is in your very existence, awaiting the right circumstances to express itself. There is no such thing as luck or accidents in this purposeful universe. Not only is everything connected to everything else, but no one is excluded from the universal source called intention. And genius, since it's a characteristic of the universal source, must be universal, which means that it's in no way restricted. It's available to every single human being. It certainly can and does show up differently in every single one of us. The qualities of creativity and genius are within you, waiting your decision to match up with that power of intention. Changing your energy level to access the genius within you. Higher energy is the energy of light, which is a way of describing spiritual energy. The 7 faces of intention are the ingredients of this spiritual energy. When you shift your thoughts, emotions, and life activities into these realms and deactivate the lower energies of the ego, the God force within you begins to take over. It's so automatic that it travels faster than your thoughts. This is why your thoughts about how you did it are so bewildering. The higher energy level actually transcends thought, moving into vibrational harmony with the source energy of intention. As you release ego-dominated thoughts, which convince you that you're doing these amazing things and you are responsible for these unbelievable accomplishments, then you begin to tap into the power of intention. This is where the genius that you truly are resides. I'd like you to consider what may seem like a radical idea. Genius can show up in as many ways as there are human beings. Anything in any field that anyone has ever accomplished is shared by you. You're connected to every being that has ever lived or ever will live, and you share the same exact energy of intention that flowed through Archimedes, Leonardo da Vinci, the Virgin Mother, and Jonas Salk. You can access this energy. At the deepest level, all things and all people are composed of vibrations organized into fields that permeate the entire structure of the universe. You share these vibrations, and you are in this field. The starting point is knowing and understanding that this level of creativity and functioning called genius resides within you. Then begin to deconstruct doubts about your role here. Make a commitment to raise your energy levels to vibrate harmoniously with the field of intention, despite attempts by your ego and other egos to dissuade you. Expanding your reality. Pay attention to yourself in ways that allow the expansion of the infinite possibilities that you're potentially capable of. You may decide, as I have, that repairing an automobile and surfing in the ocean aren't what you're going to enjoy doing. You leave these activities to others, and you use your genius to engage in pursuits that please and attract you. Expand your reality to the point where you pursue what you love doing and excel at it. Involve yourself in the high energy levels of trust, optimism, appreciation, reverence, joy, and love. That means love for what you're doing, love for yourself, and love for your genius, which allows you to immerse yourself in any activity and enjoy the process of experiencing it fully. Trusting your insights. The process of appreciating your genius involves trusting those inner flashes of creative insight as being worthy of expression. Never, but never regard any creative thought that you're having as anything other than a worthy potential expression of your inner genius. The only caveat here is that these thoughts must be in vibrational harmony with the 7 faces of intention. Inner thoughts of hatred, anger, fear, despair, and destruction simply don't foster creative insights. The low-energy, ego-dominated thoughts must be replaced and converted to the power of intention. Your creative impulses are real, they're vital, they're worthy, and they crave expression. The fact that you can conceive of them is proof of this. Your thoughts are real, they're pure energy, and they're telling you to pay attention and get that connecting link to the power of intention polished up through living at different levels than you've accepted as normal or ordinary. At these levels, everyone is a genius. Appreciating the genius in others. Every person you interact with should feel the inner glow that comes from being appreciated, particularly for the ways in which they express their creativity. A core theme which strengthens the flow of the power of intention is wanting for others as much as you intend for yourself. Appreciating the genius in others attracts high levels of competent energy to you. By seeing and celebrating the creative genius, you open a channel within yourself for receiving the creative energy from the field of intention.
These kinds of events of people walking by and saying, "Is this your strawberry ice cream?" And you say, "Wow, I was just thinking about that. Ooh, what's going on? How did that happen? Where did that come from?" Or you're thinking about your sister and you're just having a conversation with her. You haven't seen her in 5 years and you go to the phone and she's calling, or, endless numbers of these kinds of synchronistic events that almost like you have a collaboration with fate, they become more frequent, they become more noticeable, they aren't something that you say, "Oh, how could this happen? Isn't that interesting?" Or it's just chaos, because there's no such thing as chaos, is there?
It's only the appearance of chaos. There is nothing in chaos. It's like when you go to, let's say you go to New York City, and the best example I can use of chaos is Grand Central Station, okay? Yeah. So everybody is going hither and thither every which way and what, and you think it's chaotic. But each person is going to a specific destination. And not only that, if you were to announce a track change from track 11 to track 10, you'd see a further intensification of the chaos. But in fact, it is an elaboration of the underlying order. So in all this seeming chaos, there's an underlying order. And it's not only that you should go and get flowers wherever you go. The Vedic expression is, when you're in that state, then wherever you go, flowers will bloom.
Yeah.
You don't have to wait for them. You choose where you want to go, and the flowers will bloom on your path.
Yeah, I believe that. I mean, I know that. I do. And I've seen it happen, and I believe you can take this kind of consciousness and make it work, not only for you, but for those around you, or for the world. That the thoughts, the images, the vision, the ability to manifest, to create what you want for yourself. You see, if enough of us in the world believe, for example, in a nuclear holocaust, just taking it to something that affects all of us, and certainly all of our children who are going to inherit this place from it. If enough of us believe that exists, doesn't it? I mean, that's a consciousness. And if enough of us believe it, we will collectively begin to act upon that consciousness, that fear, if you will. Because fear is really, to me there's like fear and love in there. I mean, hate isn't the opposite of love. Fear is the opposite of love. When you eradicate the fear, like if I'm afraid of something happening, an opinion that somebody might have of me, somebody doing something to me that might not, somebody taking my money away from me, somebody, an IRS audit, whatever it may be that is fearful, I'm creating those pheromones that you were talking about, those fearful pheromones. I like that. That could be a rock group. The fearful pheromones. Watch, they'll be on TV tomorrow. You create that. When I have that fearful thought, I find myself, I use a technique that I'm writing about in Real Magic, where I use the word next. Just like, okay, here's that thought, and I say to myself, next. Like that thought, I don't need that fearful thought, or that fearful thought is going to create the very thing that it is that I'm anticipating. So I just remind myself of next, and the stress inside, the anxiety, whatever, seems to dissipate, and I substitute fear with love, with harmony, with bliss, with ease, with whatever you want to call that. And the minute that I do that, the minute that I just shift that thought, my physiology changes. I am creating molecules with my mind that create love and harmony instead of fear, and the problem is gone.
Unconditional love is really nothing more than the absence of fear. The ego is where fears originate, with constant messages that you are incomplete and need more, that you need to win to be better in comparison to others. With its unceasing pressure, the ego keeps you in a constant state of turmoil and anxiety. Here is where all fears are birthed and nurtured within you. To accept unconditional love as your premise for living, you will have to tell the ego that there is no need to prove anything, and that all you want or hope for is already here. With this kind of declaration, fear is removed from your life and is replaced with love. Remember the biblical quote, "Perfect love casteth out all fear." The world you live in is an intelligent system in which every moving part is coordinated by every other moving part. There's a universal life force that supports and orchestrates everything. It all works together in perfect harmony. You are one of those moving parts. You showed up here in this body that you inhabit, precisely on time. Your body will leave here with the same precision. You're an essential piece of this complex system. Here you are in this intelligent system that has no beginnings and no ends, in which all of the galaxies move in harmony with each other. You must have shown up here for a reason. Khalil Gibran said, "When you are born, your work is placed in your heart." Take a moment right now and point to yourself. Your finger is very likely pointing right at your heart, not at your brain, but at your heart. This is who you are. The constant beating of your heart in and out and in, is a symbol of your infinite connection to the always present heartbeat of God, or the universal intelligence. Your left brain calculates, figures things out, analyzes, and comes up with the most logical choices for you. It thinks. Your right brain represents your intuitive side. This is the part of you that goes beyond reason and analysis. It's the part of you that feels things, that's sensitive to love, that's emotional about what's important to you. Your right brain allows you to tear up as you hold your babies or bask in the beauty of a glorious day. Your left brain can analyze it, while your right brain lets you feel it. Pick a situation and ask yourself if what you know or what you feel is most important to you. Generally, what you'll take care of first depends on the situation and circumstances you're in. Your intellect can be figuring out exactly how you're supposed to act in a relationship when things are collapsing or when they're rapturous. And then there are times when what you feel will supersede what you know. If you are feeling fearful, scared, lonely, or on the other hand thrilled, loving, and ecstatic, these will be the dominant forces you'll act upon. These are the times when your right brain is right. Your right brain will always lead you passionately to your purpose. Listening to your right brain. There's an intuitive, invisible presence that's always with you. I picture this presence as a nagging little creature who sits on your right shoulder and reminds you when you've lost your sense of purpose. Listen to your invisible companion. Express the music that you hear and ignore what everyone else around you thinks you should be doing. As Thoreau put it, if a man does not keep pace with his companions, perhaps it is because he hears a different drummer. Let him step to the music he hears, however measured or far away. Be willing to accept that others may even see you as having betrayed them, but you haven't betrayed your music, your purpose. Listen to your music, and do what you know you have to do to feel whole, to feel complete, and to feel as if you're fulfilling your destiny. You'll never be at peace if you don't get that music out and let it play. Let the world know why you're here, and do it with passion. Being passionate means taking risks. You may indeed find yourself living a comfortable life when you don't follow your instincts. You're aware of that nagging companion saying to you, "This may look right, but does it feel right? Are you doing what you came here to do?" For many people, the answer is, "How do I know what my heroic mission is?" You'll find your passion in what inspires you the most. And what does the word inspire mean? It derives from the words in spirit. When you're inspired, you never have to ask about your purpose. You're living it. For one of my children, it's about riding horses and being at the stables. She's in heaven when on horseback or even cleaning out a stall filled with horse manure. Another daughter is only inspired when she's singing, writing music, or performing. She's felt that way since she was 2. For another, it's her artwork and design that makes her feel purposeful. For yet another, it's designing websites and creating computer programs for others. For me, it's writing and speaking and creating products to help people become self-reliant. This has always been my passion, even as a young boy. When I go before an audience and I sit down to meditate, I repeat the mantra, "How may I serve? How may I serve? How may I serve?" How can I get my ego out of this presentation, out of this program, out of what it is that I am doing, and my needs to have rewards and to have applause and to have people tell me how wonderful I am? How can I get all of that out? If you're a dentist, you can give a flower to every patient. You can call them in the evening and ask how they're doing, as my dentist always does. You can make your waiting room a place where people look forward to coming by putting in programs like this for people to listen to while they're being drilled on. It doesn't make any difference. If you're a cab driver, you can make your cab a place of service. You can do a little bit extra.
And the irony is when you turn your life over to being a statesman and ultimately to being a spiritual being, this attitude allows this free-flowing, unconditional, loving energy that is the divine universe, that is God, to enter into your life. And it just keeps going. You're just keeping the channels open, folks. That's all you're doing. You're just keeping it open. And you're aware of every little cue that comes along that blocks that channel. The minute that it's there, it's an angry thought, it's a judgmental thought, it's a stressful thought. The minute that it shows up, you replace it with an attitude of service, gratitude, generosity, and it leaves. The part of you that knows, the part of you that is infinite, as the poet suggests, the part of you that is every place, is also in all that you would like to see show up in your life. And if you keep a generous, grateful, serving attitude, you'll never block it.